Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome. Moneyline MMA coverage here. UFC 314 returning at a normal time here, Monday afternoon slot. Just a little later than usual. Usually it's about 5:30, 5:38. Sorry, we're a little late today, but we're getting at it with picks for UFC 314. The next pay-per-view, of course, Alex Volkanovski stepping in versus Diego Lopes to take the vacated belt that Ilia Topuria left behind to go chase Islam Makhachev in the lightweight division. So it'll be very exciting to see, obviously, what Jose has to pick, what I have to pick. Before we get too deep into the picks for this Saturday, let's quickly discuss last Saturday. We had a card in which Josh Emmett took on Lerone Murphy in the Apex. It was a pretty decent card overall. There were some decisions, some finishes, more decisions than finishes, I feel like, but that's kind of just also going off memory. Maybe I'm wrong. It could be. I'm pretty sure there were more decisions. But either way, honestly, great night, especially for me. Hard for me to complain. Kennedy Nzechukwu had to back out. His fight did not occur, so he was still slated to fight as of our show last week, but it didn't work out, and they did not find a replacement for Martin Buday. So in that case, that fight was completely canceled. But other than that cancellation, 4-0, clean sweep from my perspective of UFC Fight Night last week. Lerone Murphy was obviously the lock of the week. My 5-weight, Jose's 4-weight, and honestly dominated for most of the fight. Josh Emmett had his moments. Don't get me wrong, Josh Emmett strong, but Josh Emmett also bleeding very easily. It seemed like the top of his head multiple times got cut, and I feel like even though it wasn't that Lerone Murphy was handedly winning each round, that damage was like one of the small things that was a separator. But I will also say Josh Emmett landed that one really good takedown where Lerone Murphy was like airborne for a second, if you remember. That was kind of wild. I was like, dang, Lerone Murphy's going to feel that tomorrow. But he still got the win, got to keep his undefeated streak going. This unanimous decision in his favor. The main other fights that worth discussing was my underdog pick of Pat Sabatini. Got to pat myself on the back a little. That was great odds, man. Plus 200, I believe, something along those lines. He dominated Brito. It wasn't even close. He 10-8'd the first round, and I remember telling Jose, "It's over." Or we weren't actually talking until the main event. But I was thinking it. I was like, "Yeah, it's over, dude, Jose. If you don't get a finish, this fight's over. You got to come back 2 rounds and win them both after a 10-8. No way." Pat Sabatini made that look easy. Dion Barbosa for me is 2-8, and then of course our last disagreement, Brad Tavares and Gerald Meerschaert, I got the best of as well. Brad Tavares just piecing up Gerald Meerschaert. Essentially a lot of what I predicted. I think he was just way better of a striker, and if Gerald isn't able to get that submission game going, it's not going to work in his favor, and here we are with the win in Brad Tavares' favor. So last note on that card, Chang Ho Lee being Jose's 5-weight winner, getting a TKO. And from what I'm seeing, one of the only 2 finishes on the main card, Chang Ho Lee finishing Cortavius Romeus via KO in the second round. So good on him making that look easy, and we'll see what he's got next. That was only one of his first few fights in the UFC, but already on a main event for a fight night. So we'll see what he does going forward. But for anyone new here, we do our picks in a 5-weight system in terms of we're picking 5 fights of what's currently available for UFC 314. Of course, we're making these picks ahead of time, so cancellations and things can change between now and the card. But in most cases, especially with pay-per-views, a few things change. There's a lot of money at stake for some of these guys, and in any case, there's 13 currently scheduled available fights for UFC 314. Jose and I pick 5 of them and weigh our picks in order of confidence. 5-weight being the most confident, 1-weight being the least confident. So, of course, 5-weight is our locks of the week. And with that said, we're going to go straight into it. We go from 5-weight down. We always go with the locks of the week first. So with that said, my lock of the week 5-weight is actually going to take us straight into the main event. We're not going to dilly-dally today. A lot of cases, especially with pay-per-views, we do end up dilly-dallying because it's a championship fight for a reason. It's close. Maybe we're not quite as confident, but at least for me, I'm pretty confident, as you can see, in Diego Lopes. Now, I will say, of all my weights, I feel like each week it's a little different, right? Sometimes my 5-weight is 3 to 5 times more confident than my 1-weight, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the 5-weight is actually not that different in terms of overall confidence in the 1-weight. And this is one of those weeks where I have a lot of confidence in each one of my picks, but it was actually kind of hard to pick the 5-weight. So I want to make that quick note, just that Diego is my 5 weight officially, but in all reality, when we get to my 2 and 1 weight picks, they're not going to be too far off in confidence as Diego Lopez. But regardless, getting into Diego Lopez alone, he's just got the dog in him. We've seen him do it time and time again. And I understand that, like, when he beat Dan Ige right there, everybody's going to say, well, it was a last minute replacement. And I get that. But honestly, that to me, in my opinion, is just as hard on Lopez as it is for Ige. Like, I understand it's hard for Ige, but he's in fight shape pretty much at any time. So it's not like Ige was really taxing himself. And Lopez was the one that had to fight a completely different fighter, completely different style, and adjust to that with hours to go. I mean, that's crazy. And to still accept it, too. Like, he didn't have to accept that. So I just feel like Diego Lopez is the man. It's one of those things where he's like Brian Ortega, but I feel like way better on the feet, and that's what we saw. He fought Brian Ortega, won by unanimous decision, and honestly didn't feel that close at any moment. Volkanovski to me is out of his prime. I understand, his losses. You can look at his losses, and they're against the top end of the competition. But I believe that Diego Lopez is also just as good as the competition that Volk has lost to, and arguably was very close to losing multiple times, like against Brian Ortega, who Lopez just easily handled. And Volkanovski, he's not fighting a guy like Max Holloway. Max Holloway is very like stand up. You can kind of get a read on him, and you can beat him boxing. But that's not what you're going to get out of Diego Lopez at all. And the one and only thing that I could think, in my opinion, would be against Lopez is a potential run into the fourth or fifth round. Diego Lopez has zero experience in the fourth or fifth round, so I could totally see, knocking him a little bit in the sense of like, will he have the cardio to continue pushing it and like even wrestling or going for takedowns and submissions in the fourth and fifth round? I'd like to think so, but we don't know for sure. But in any other category, I think he's going to bring it to Volk on the feet. I'm not worried whatsoever about a submission on Volk's side, and I think Volk should be honestly concerned about Lopez winning not only on the feet but also in jiu-jitsu situations. We'll have to see with Volk's chin. He's coming off 2 straight KOs now. It's hard for me to take his side. So I love the up and comer Lopez here. If you ask me, he's going to be a champion for a little bit. What do you think, Jose?
Man, yeah, you said a lot there that I totally agree with, and Diego Lopez, a completely dangerous guy. Like I'm gonna be straight up off the bat. Like I'm actually going with Volkanovski on this one, but he is my 2 weight, and I was struggling between making Volkanovski my 1 or my 2 weight because just how dangerous Diego Lopez is, and he's always like rise to the occasion. So like he just really just can step in and put on a show. And as you mentioned, he dominated Brian Ortega, and he almost looked like he was going to finish Brian Ortega at one point early in the fight. So for him to just be doing stuff like that against top level competition is just says a lot about him and his work ethic. But Volk has just been there so many times, so that's why I'm siding with him. Is just because he's lost to Islam and Ilia Taporia, and understandably so. He's just been undersized with Islam, and then and of course the second time he stepped in and got KO'd, he it was a last minute thing. But the first time when he fought Islam, he he put on a good fight against Islam, didn't get the win, but still put like he was worthy of a possible rematch down the line. He came back and he finished Yair Rodriguez. And Yair Rodriguez, I think, if it wasn't for Volk, he would have been like, he had the potential to actually be straight up the actual undisputed champ as opposed to just the interim. And Diego Lopez, the level of competition both guys have on their resumes is just not the same. Like Diego Lopez, he has good names. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I agree with you. I think Diego Lopez will be champion one day, undisputed champ. I don't know if it'll be this Saturday, but definitely soon after Volk's reign, because he has just as an impressive resume coming up. Like Volk had an impressive resume coming up. Conor McGregor did. So does Diego Lopez. He has a great for how long he's been in the UFC. Just the type of names that he's gotten, and the ones that have aged well over time. Like the Mospar Evloev fight, he didn't win that, but it's like looking at that loss now, like, hey, like that aged pretty well, and they may even rematch down the line. But he's still beating guys that I feel like Volk has beaten guys more that are within the top 10, and even top 5 than what Diego Lopes has. Most of the guys that he's beaten, besides Brian Ortega, were either unranked or just top 15, not even top 10, really. Like, just like Sadiq Yusuf, Dan Ige, Pat Sabatini, Gavin Tucker. Like, these are good names, but they've just been not necessarily, and like, rankings don't mean everything for sure, but it's just like those level of names too have still like they're just breaking into the top 10 still. So like the level of competition they've been it just doesn't compare to like the opponents that like Volkanovski has been. So I'm not gonna shy away. This fight for me will definitely be where I change my mind for sure whether Alex Volk is truly out of his prime or not. Um, I think he definitely just belongs at featherweight. He can keep dominating here, unless it's Ilia Topuria, but Ilia Topuria is already gone. So that being said, like I think Volk is gonna win this one. I think, and as you mentioned, like it could be a thing. How does Diego Lopez look in the later rounds versus Volk? Because again, Volk is just championship fights he's done so many times. But how's Diego Lopez going to look in the fourth and the fifth round against someone who's been there many times before and has dominated in that spot? So for Alex Volkanovski, he's gonna feel nothing different. I'm sure it's just whether or not Diego Lopez will clip him early in the fight, so much like Ilia Topuria or Islam. Just in Diego Lopez himself, like out of his 26 wins, he does have 10 KOs/TKOs. So it's very interesting. I don't know if he's going to be the one to knock out. I don't think he'll knock out Alex Volk, but never say never. Like I'm riding with Volk just because of his experience over Diego Lopez. So that being said, but I'm going with Volk, but he is my two weight just because again Diego Lopez is an extreme serious threat.
Yeah, man. Honestly, that makes sense. So it seems to pretty much be like, are you on the side of you're not quite ready to accept that Volk's prime is over, um, or not? Like I feel like that's kind of what it really does boil down to, because it's not that you're knocking Diego Lopez, but if you're right in that Volkanovski's prime is not over, I still would say he's arguably one of the best of all time at featherweight. Um, so, but at the same time, arguably, so at that point, if there's like even in my opinion, if there's a big question about it, then you're probably not. The best of all time is usually like understood, like yeah, that's the best of all time, obviously, or I guess either way, that's irregardless to the conversation. That I believe that Alex Volkanovski is kind of falling off, and that's part of my pick with Diego Lopez. And I just think that Diego Lopez's youth and tenacity, I'm not sure the fourth and fifth rounds are going to matter, man. I could see him, like, if you ask me this, if Lopez had Volkanovski in the same spot that Ortega did, Lopez is finishing the fight. That's over. That's not getting a rerun again for Volk. I think that's a one in a lifetime kind of situation. Volk getting out of that. I don't think it happens again. So if I'm Volk, I'm real concerned about that at any point in that fight. But either way, that will be my 5-weight and Jose's 2-weight.
And for my five weight, this comes down to the featherweight bout between Yair Rodriguez and Patricio Pitbull. Um, right now, Yair Rodriguez, he is the betting favorite at minus 205, while Patricio Pitbull is the betting underdog at plus 158. This is an exciting matchup. Obviously, Patricio Pitbull is making his UFC debut after being in Bellator for such a long time and just dominating in both the featherweight and lightweight divisions. Just losing to very small handful of people like Benson Henderson, AJ McKee, Sergio Pettis, and he even has wins over Michael Chandler, which happened actually, I believe, out here in Rosemont, Illinois, so not far from Chicago. And that would have been a cool one for me to see, to be honest. But that being said, yeah, he's even fought for bantamweight. So Pitbull has really just been in the sport for such a long time and multiple weight classes and has dominated. And he's fought even for Ryzen, done some and that being said, like the thing here is why I'm siding with Yair Rodriguez is Yair Rodriguez I think is just really just still in his prime as well, and he's just crazy like creative with his striking. While Pitbull, he's gonna come in with a lot of experience, similar to like Volk, and just like Patricio Pitbull is literally championship caliber fighter. But I do think he's probably out of his prime. Like the Pitbull that should have been in the UFC should be the early 30s Pitbull, not the late 30s one. So and we haven't seen him since of last year. He did have a TKO in the third round over Jeremy Kennedy. Um, so that being said, like he's still showing that he can go out there and get it done. But Yair Rodriguez, he is coming off his two losses, submission and TKO by Volk. But I still think that his striking and his reach is going to get him a win over Patricio Pitbull. And Patricio Pitbull could come in and he can do a similar game plan to like when Frankie Edgar beat a young Yair Rodriguez, where he just completely out wrestled him and did ground and pound. That could be a method I can definitely see Pitbull. That's one of his things, bread and butter. So won't be surprised, like, just given how much shorter he is and the reach disadvantage he'll have, that he's just going to try to close the gap and put Yair against the cage and then on the ground. He may try to look for a submission, but Yair Rodriguez, he does work, even though he at the gym he's at, he does do a lot of kickboxing and boxing, but he is doing a lot more wrestling than people think. Like, there's really good wrestlers at school. The school he's at, they're more known for like strikers, but they definitely have their own wrestling class, and I know he's out there just getting a lot of grappling done. And so that being said, like, I just think that he may even feel really comfortable to try to attack his own submissions on Patricio Pitbull. But overall, I just think that I don't think Pitbull is going to have like he's not going to get the W that night is what I'm saying. Like, it's cool that the UFC gave him Yair Rodriguez. That shows what they really think of him, like how good he is. And he is good, but in this one, I'm siding with the younger Yair Rodriguez. Just crazy striker, and just also the height and reach advantage is what I'm going for. And so that being said, I think Yair Rodriguez is going to win this. I don't know if he'll finish Pitbull, but I think he's going to win. He's definitely just going to take the win and outstrike Pitbull on the feet. So that being said, I feel really good on this one. I got Yair Rodriguez as my 5 weight. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
Man, so we're gonna disagree on this one. I picked Pitbull. I know that's like a little bit of a tongue twister. I'm going with Pitbull here. Pitbull officially is my 3 weight, so I'm a little less confident. Obviously, that is a little bit of a swap. You had your 2 weight against my 5. I have my 3 weight against your 5. But in any case, for me, I like Pitbull here. I guess I'm learning a respect against a lot of these Bellator and PFL guys. Like, Chandler kind of came in and did pretty solid. He might not be amazing. And we'll have him to discuss on this card as well, funny enough. But like MVP as well, I thought he's coming in do really good. So a lot of these guys, I don't know, it's not been perfect for sure, but what I'm getting at is I respect a lot of the competition that Pitbull's had, and the fact that I believe it's 24-6 is pretty impressive, man. And honestly, you mentioned the wrestling aspect of it briefly, and I think that's ultimately where I go in the end with my handicap here, is that Patricio is so like well-rounded. Like, if you look at his finishes, right, I believe he has like 10 to 12 finishes in each of KO, submission, and decision. So like, he's well-rounded. He's got tools in the tool belt for all different kinds of scenarios, and honestly, I think he's ready to go with a wrestling game plan. When you look at Yair's most recent losses to like Volk and I believe it's Ortega. Yeah, it's Ortega and Volk that he's most recently lost to. There's a big wrestling aspect in those fights. I understand he ultimately got finished, but Ortega landed 3 takedowns in over 5 minutes of control time, and Volkanovski landed 7 takedowns in over 7 minutes of control time. That's a minute of control time each. That isn't that great. So Yair is getting up, but I do believe that Pitbull's going to be able to push a wrestling pace and take him down and win rounds that way. So if you ask me, I would specifically take Pitbull by decision here. I think he goes for a wrestling game plan and ends up beating Yair just kind of with a slow drain. Wrestle him for maybe the first round and then stand and box with him when he loses some of that pop.
No, yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, this is one we're definitely gonna have to agree to disagree on. I think Yair Rodriguez is just gonna probably just keep his distance too. I think that's all that would be the key. Is just Patricia's going to try to zone in and close the gap, and I'm just interested to see how he do it. I mean, it's been done before. Obviously, like Volkanovski has done it, and Frankie
Mm-hmm.
Edgar. So and they're significantly been shorter and disadvantaged with the reach. So I'm sure Pitbull will probably pay close attention to those fights, and I'm sure Yair's. I'm gonna think he's gonna treat this fight similar to those two specifically. So I think 3 times should be like third time's the charm type of thing. So that being said, yeah, this one I got Yair Rodriguez as my 5 weight, and yeah, and you have him
Okay.
as and you have Pitbull as your 2 weight.
Yep. 3 weight. 3 weight.
3 weight, my bad.
Yep. 3 weight on Pitbull, so a little more confident than your pick on Alex. But yeah, man, it should be a good fight either way. I'm really excited. And like you said, even though it is, I agree that it's still a little bit past Pitbull's, like, what it would be considered his prime. Obviously, he's 37 now. Would have loved to see him in his low 30s for sure, but I don't necessarily think he's got. I mean, he's coming off a win after all, right? If he was coming off, if it was like Bellator was like discarding him like a used toy, it would be a different story, right? But it feels like he still has something left in the tank after finishing Jeremy Kennedy, who isn't a bad fighter at all. I mean, Jeremy Kennedy might not be a big name in like the UFC, but Jeremy Kennedy, I feel like, I mean, he's got some good wins under his belt too. He's a tough fighter. And I think he would still, maybe not get top 15 in the UFC, but, Yair Rodriguez, I'm sure, I'm thinking, like, I know he's a title challenger too, but, like, I don't know. A lot of his wins aren't like super impressive. Like Korean Zombie, I guess he did beat BJ Penn back in the day, but it's kind of washed up BJ Penn. I don't know. But that's for another day to get too deep into Yair's past. Um, we'll agree to disagree on this one and go to my 4 weight. My 4 weight is going to be Gene Silva. I was just checking to see this is the feature fight of the UFC 314, and I'm picking Gene Silva to finish Bryce Mitchell. I'm not necessarily going all in on that finish. I'm probably just going to pick Gene Silva money line, but it is kind of steep. Let me double check because I did write it down. Gene Silva minus 295. Bryce Mitchell plus 220. So decent favorite there, basically 3-1. Bryce Mitchell's going to look to wrestle. In my opinion, the only way Bryce Mitchell wins this fight is if he gets takedowns. Gene Silva is very obviously the more powerful striker here and has way more intent to finish fights, specifically striking, than Bryce Mitchell. Of course, he's not lost yet in the UFC. He has Gene Silva, and I don't think he's looking to lose anytime soon. He's only got one decision under his professional fighting career in 15 wins. One of them is decision. This guy goes for it. Gas, always down. So to me, the only way if I'm Bryce Mitchell to win this fight is to get an early takedown and to just gas out Gene Silva. Take out the edge from his power early, because Gene Silva's last 4 wins are all by finish, KO, and that's all 4 of his UFC fights actually after the Contender Series to get his contract anyway. So this guy's going to come in aggressive, and you already know it. And in that sense, he's going to also fight for your money. So he's an exciting guy to put your money on because he's not going to be any question mark. He's not going to start slow. He's going to go in there guns a-blazing from the start. And I'm counting on him to get the finish against Bryce Mitchell. If he doesn't get the finish, he's going to land insane damage, and Bryce is going to be scrambling for takedown attempts. Bryce will land a takedown attempt or two, and it's going to rely on Gene Silva getting up from those takedown attempts. But so far, he sports an 80% takedown defense percentage, and I'm excited to see that get tested against Bryce Mitchell. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick. So for this one, I definitely agree with you. I also have Gene Silva. He is my 1 weight just because Bryce Mitchell, he's got some really good jiu-jitsu. So, and this is, of course, striker versus grappler type of matchup. And so I think on the feet, Silva's definitely going to, I think, dominate most likely. And just, I do think Bryce Mitchell may clip him a few times. Bryce Mitchell's not the fastest striker, but he doesn't have bad hands either. But he's never really gotten a true knockout with his fists. So that being said, like he'll probably hit a few things, but most of his punches are going to be trying to set up something to engage in the grappling. And as you mentioned, Gene Silva has an 80% takedown defense. So I think this fight mostly is going to be on the feet, and as long as it's on the feet, I just see it all going towards Gene Silva, him just racking up the points and even looking for that. Yeah, he's a finisher, so he may even TKO or KO Bryce Mitchell as well in this one. Very possible. Or if not, at least go to decision and it be unanimous decision. So, not much else to say other than that. But yeah, like I think he's going to dominate. Even more now. Like I'm surprised he's my one weight, but he's my one weight. So because Bryce Mitchell again, he can just sneak in that submission. So that being said,
Yeah.
yeah, I got Gene Silva as my one weight.
Yeah, man. Like that's kind of what I was saying earlier, though. With like, at least for me, I can't speak for you, but like my 1 and 2 weight are actually pretty confident still. No, in comparison to some previous weeks, it's definitely less confident. So I'm excited to get to those fights. But in any case, for now, 4 weight on Gene Silva for me and 1 weight for Jose, but still seems to be pretty confident for us there. So maybe a secondary or potentially at this point right now, it is the lack of the week just based on total points, excluding our 5 weights individually, just because we didn't even agree on Jose's 5 weights or my 5 weight. So that that's it. That's currently our lock of the week. We'll see if that changes going into Jose's 4 weight here.
Yeah, so for my four-way, this is actually the lightweight bout between Paddy Pimblett and looking for that, and obviously Michael Chandler. And right now, Paddy Pimblett, he is the betting favorite at minus 170, while Michael Chandler is the betting underdog at plus 132. And for this one, I thought the line would be tighter, and I honestly, for some reason, thought Patty may have been. I don't know. Actually, after the last fight, he's kind of proven to be, better than just more than just a mouth. And so I thought the line was gonna be closer, but Patty Pimblett, yeah, him being minus 170, I was I can see it like, and I'm agreeing with it because I see Patty Pimblett overwhelming Michael Chandler on the feet and even winning the grappling exchanges. Michael Chandler, like he just hasn't fought. We haven't seen him since uh, uh, um, 2000, November, but he came off a submission loss to Dustin Poirier. And even though out of his 9 losses, he's only been submitted once. He's definitely struggled more with the grapplers like Charles Oliveira and um, obviously Dustin Poirier, who he's not really he always looks for a guillotine or something. He's always looking for the neck. So he won that one via rear naked choke. But
For real.
I don't see Michael Chandler beating Paddy Pimblett in this one in terms of knocking him out or anything like that. Like Tony Ferguson, like beating Tony Ferguson, he knocked him out. And Tony Ferguson's like not even in the UFC anymore. That Dan Hooker fight, I will say, the Dan Hooker and Benson Henderson fights, those wins are impressive, and him almost knocking out Charles Oliveira is impressive. He may have some moments like that against Patty, but I think Patty is just literally going to be looking for some type of way to set up a submission. Just Patty is so good at setting up the triangles, especially. It's crazy, like just the way how he got Bobby Green, so that being said, like either rear naked choke or a triangle on Michael Chandler is the best way I see it going. If it gets though, because what I understand, yeah, this is gonna be a 5 round. If it makes it to the later rounds, um, yeah, like that could be a problem because Michael Chandler, if he's not put out by then, he's gonna be walking forward, not caring, about any damage or whatever, just to, get his hands on Patty. So I'm interested to see how Patty's gonna react when Michael Chandler is pressing forward on that. So that being said, I think I got Patty in this one, and I'm leaning towards submission. And he is obviously my forward. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
Man, so we will agree on this one. So we'll have another agreement, and actually, this will replace the last fight for new lock of the week. I have a 2 weight on Paddy Pimblett, so that actually makes 6 total confidence points instead of 5. New lock of the week will be Paddy Pimblett actually for the show, just based on who we both agree on for total weights there, and really for largely the same reasons. I I think Paddy Pimblett is obviously better in jiu-jitsu, and should this fight get to the ground, Paddy Pimblett's far more dangerous. So we can obviously agree on that. I don't think many people can disagree with that. The question then really lies on the game standing up. Michael Chandler's definitely got some power, and Michael Chandler's got some impressive wins under his belt for sure. And it's really hard to gauge with his UFC fights alone too, because he beats the guys he's supposed to beat, and he so far hasn't beaten the guys he wants to beat. But in all reality, it seems that he wins when he's a favorite and he loses when he's a dog. It's like what is supposed to happen kind of thing. So if that's the case here, then he's going to lose. He is the underdog at plus 132 and Patty's minus 170. And you're right, Jose, this is 5 rounds. So maybe that goes in Chandler's favor slightly because he is coming off a 5-round fight. He did lose it, but he went the distance with Charles Oliveira. So that's really respectable. Would Paddy Pimblett go the distance with Charles Oliveira? I'm not exactly sure. But that doesn't mean that Paddy Pimblett is worse either. But that just could also mean styles too. With two guys being so jiu-jitsu strong, maybe they go and just agree to stand up. But in any case, I think Paddy Pimblett is like, if Paddy Pimblett doesn't continue to evolve and get better, right? He's now 30 years old, right? January 3rd, 95. Yeah, so he's 30 years old, right? This is a new generation Paddy, right? This isn't going to be the same kid anymore. And if he continues to grow like a trajectory of a true champion, then I think he has a chance to compete in the future. He has a chance to beat some of the best. I could see him competing with Arman Tsarukyan, and if he's able to come in and handle Michael Chandler like most of these guys could. I mean, even Oliveira went to decision with him. So I'm not saying he has to decisively finish Chandler, but you know what I'm saying? He has to look like Poirier, Gaethje, and Oliveira in the ring and beat Chandler, beat him with enough conviction to say, like, yeah, this might be the next guy. I think it's possible, specifically if this fight gets to the ground. But Michael Chandler's striking differential just isn't significant enough for me to be confident in him on the feet either. I think Paddy's going to continue to improve, and we're going to see an evolved version of him here, and it's going to beat Michael Chandler. Sounds like we agree.
Yeah, and that's something you could definitely bank on too. Is just every time I think, yeah, Patty, since that Jared Gordon fight, every time when he's come back to the UFC, he's fought for the UFC, he's just looked better every time, and that's why like that last fight against Bobby Green is just when he looked the best. And him going against Bobby Green and Tony Ferguson, like there wasn't that many moments where he looked like he was in trouble versus his other 2 fights prior to that. Like they looked like there was some small moments, but he also wasn't as reckless where he just sprints and leaves his chin wide open and drops his fists. Like he was really bad doing that in his first couple of UFC fights, but like I've noticed that he's better at like staying composed and blitzes more like more technically like at the right moments and not just try to bull rush. So like he's not gonna force that finish. He's gonna be looking for it, and like so I'm really impressed. Like especially his last fight is the most impressed. Like so I'm just that's why I'm excited. Like him coming back now in 2025. That version, I agree with you. He's going to be evolved. So and he's just getting scared because of him putting out Bobby Green / King Green in the first round. Like definitely makes me think that he's definitely not looking to go all 5 rounds with Michael Chandler in this one. So
right.
That being said, yeah, this one we're gonna agree on lock of the week, Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan, dude. I love Chandler, and if he wins, I'm happy. But I got to pick who I think's going to win, and in all reality, it just seems to make more sense for Paddy here. It really does. So.
Oh, yeah. And then him versus, like, Arman and some of those dudes, like, him breaking in, like, Arman Tsarukyan, that'd be a fun fight. I know they were just throwing some jabs at each other not long ago.
Maybe Gamrot first.
Gamrot. Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, Arman's probably, like, him, Gamrot, Fiziev, Moicano. Yeah, there's a lot of good matchups to be made with Paddy.
100%. So, yeah, we'll see, man. This is really a gauge for a lot of guys. Like you were saying earlier, if Lopes beats Volk, this is a gauge to show that he really is it, that we thought he was. And same with Paddy here. I mean, I guess we've said that in the past, though. So it's like, when is it truly enough? I guess when you're a champ. But, this is honestly unquestionably Paddy's biggest test, and if he wins this, it's hard to argue that he's a top 5er. And at that point, you've proven your worth, and you're in that discussion for maybe a trampoline fight, in the sense that you jump up to the title challenger if you win it. So, yeah, that said, each of us only have 1 weight to go. I will go and give up I only have my 1 weight. Jose's got his 3 weight. So I'll give my 1 weight, and then we can see if Jose's 3 weight matches that or is something else. So that said, my one weight is going to lie in the prelims. Actually, going to avoid the opening fight of the main card and go down to a fight I'm a little more confident in picking. And that's Xiaonan Yan against Verna Yandiroba, prelim in the strawweight division. I'm taking Xiaonan Yan here against Verna, and Xiaonan Yan is actually a slight underdog here as well. So another underdog pick coming up. Couple underdog picks on this card. I love the dogs on this card. I think a few dogs are going to be barking, but Xiaonan Yan to me is far superior on the feet. It's not even close. And in all reality, Verna's only chance of winning this fight is getting a takedown. And most people seem to be confident that she'll do that. I understand. She's won 4 straight fights now. And she's coming off a submission of Amanda Lemos. And I get that it looked impressive. But in all reality, I think Xiaonan Yan is better. I think she's better at preparation and being ready for her opponents. And I don't think Xiaonan Yan's playing around about getting taken down at all. I think she knows exactly what to expect out of her opponent. She actually beat Mackenzie Dern by decision and Tabitha Ricci by decision. 2 girls in which they pride themselves off their ability to win by submission. So if you're telling me that neither of those girls could win by submission, then who am I to say that Verna is the favorite here? That's crazy to me. Xiaonan Yan, in my opinion, for sure. She's got 5-round experience. She wasn't able to win the belt, but she is a title challenger, and I believe she's going to be right back in that discussion again soon. But somehow she lands herself on the prelims. It's going to be a disappointment for someone, for someone that placed them this early in the card when she's going to be fighting for the belt soon. So give me Xiaonan Yan. Any thoughts, Jose?
Yeah, so for this one, it was tough for me to make a choice. But as you mentioned, I do lean towards Yan though, just because of the striking. As you put it, like how she beat like Jessica Tabitha Ricci and Mackenzie Dern, two
Yeah,
two good grapplers, and just beat them at their just
that's
beating
what I'm saying.
and out striking them. Yeah, like I think it's gonna be the same. Yeah, same game plan against Verna. Same, even Jessica Andrade. Like honestly, like yeah, Jan like this is just a good matchup for her. And as you mentioned, like Verna, if this somehow ends up on the ground and Verna, gets the best of her, then yeah, then the submission will most likely follow. But if she just avoids going to the ground, it's gonna come to decision, and I just see Jan winning it unanimously if she does not finish Verna. So for this one, yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you on Jan. I don't have a weight though.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, dude. Yeah, it just seems like a little bit disrespectful to make her the dog. I think that's great value there. Maybe a risky like 2 leg. Do her and Patty Pimblett or something, and that should get you some decent plus money because Jan is already a dog at like plus 110 or something like that. But in any case, that'll complete my weights for Saturday afternoon, and we'll let Jose complete from here.
So yeah, this bout is a lightweight bout on the prelims between Jim Miller and Chase Hooper. Right now, Jim Miller is the betting underdog at plus 500, while Chase Hooper is a minus 850 favorite. Yeah, I don't know why Chase Hooper is such a big favorite though. Honestly, I would have guessed Jim Miller would have been the favorite just because based off the experience that he has, and he's still killing it. Like he just got a first round submission win back in November, and he went unanimous. He went all 3 rounds with Bobby Green, and still was he's had his up and downs, but as of recently, out of his last fights, he's only lost a couple times, and he has way more wins recently than losses. Wow. And Chase Hooper, he's been killing it right now on a 4-fight win streak. His most recent win over Clay Guida. So I think maybe because of that, him just beating like an older vet with a lot of experience. I think that's probably maybe why he's the favorite. I was going with him. I thought he was actually going to be the underdog. To be honest, I was like, oh, this is going to be my dog of the week too. Complete opposite. Complete, not even close. But I'm cool with it. Like I'm going with a big favorite, and that's fine because I still think that he's going to get this win. So that just makes me actually feel much better. He is obviously my 3 weight, my remaining weight, and I think he's. I don't think he's going to submit Jim Miller. I mean, Jim Miller's only been submitted 3 times. I think this is going to be maybe more on the feet. Both guys are going to be it's going to be a grappling exchange. So a lot of grappling, but I think Chase Hooper will be fine. And I think it's ultimately just going to come to decision, pretty much in Chase Hooper's hands. In terms of how they stack up physically, I mean, Chase Hooper looks a lot small. Looks like he's taller. Yeah, he's 6'1". Jim Miller 5'8". Chase Hooper only has a 3-inch reach advantage. So yeah, I think he's gonna get the better end of the exchanges and possibly even sink in his own submission and be one of the very few people to submit Jim Miller. But again, Jim Miller is just, I don't think he's gonna be finished in this one. I think it's just gonna be a decision loss for him. So that being said, yeah, I got Chase Hooper as my 3-weight. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick? Do you have any weight? Yeah, you don't have
Well,
any
no,
weights.
yeah. I was going to say, obviously, I don't have a weight just because we covered all mine. But in any case, I still don't. I avoided this one because I respect Jim Miller's ground game so much. I would probably lean Chase Hooper still for sure. Obviously, the line dictates. Now, of course, 800 is way overpriced. Got to give Jim Miller some respect. It seems like no matter how many wins Jim Miller gets, the public still fades him based on his age. And I understand, like, there is a point to which he will have to fade and lose a fight and probably retire. I don't know if that'll be this fight, but I lean to say, like, he'll at least lose. I don't know if he'll retire. And Chase Hooper, to me, wants to keep this on the feet. If Jim Miller lands takedowns, that's his path to getting a slow plotting decision win or potentially submission. But because, like you said, I agree that Jim Miller is a hard dude to submit. I don't think that would be the optimal path for Chase Hooper, if you ask me. He has a good striking differential, and he has some good height too. He's 6'1" versus Jim Miller's 5'8". If I'm Chase Hooper, I'm going to utilize that height and keep some distance between us in order to keep this feet on the feet. Jim Miller is a negative striking differential, and I would just box him for 3 rounds. That's what I would do, and I would just take my decision win and move on if I was Chase Hooper. But in any case, I don't have a weight on it.
No, yeah, fair enough. But thank you for sharing that, though. Yeah. Let me say, yeah, Nick has no weight on it, but yeah, I'm sticking with Chase Hooper as my 3-weight. And before we go, too, I was gonna say, I don't know if you want to talk about it. Oh, there's only one fight on the main card we didn't talk about. Um, I was just gonna say
Right.
on that lightweight heavyweight bout between Nikita Krylov and Dominic Reyes. I think this one for me it was just too close to call. Because like I said earlier, like it depends what version of Dominic Reyes is going to show up, and I need to see some consistency out of him to be before I want to side with him again for a lot of stuff. So that being said, like I obviously did not talk about this fight. I don't think I'd want to bet on it just because of Dominic. I just he can be a little chinny. So don't know if you want to add anything to that, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it's like hesitation on Dominic Reyes. Like, I will say, though, I would pick Dominic Reyes if I was to pick this fight. Right here, right now, I would definitely pick Dominic Reyes. No, not even, like, I mean, the fact that he's a plus 162 dog is so attractive to me. He's at least doing something. Like, last year, June, December, he gets 2 KOs. We're now only, like, 4 or 5 months removed. Like, he's on a roll. Like, he's back to Dominic Reyes. And I understand he's been around for so long, but as long as he's been around, he's really not even that old. Like, it's kind of crazy. I don't know. I think Dominic Reyes still has a little bit left in the tank. Is essentially what I'm getting at. And Krylov hasn't fought in 2 years. It's been March of 2023. I didn't realize 2 years have already gone by, but yeah, that's 2 full calendar years and a month in which Krylov hasn't fought. And I'm not going to pick a guy that just hasn't fought in so long and honestly has some losses to some questionable guys like Paul Craig. And I mean, I guess Glover's a pretty tough loss to take, but it's like Krylov to me is one of those like middle end fighters. And Dominic Reyes kind of is too, I guess, at this point of his career, but at least he's done something for me lately.
No, fair, yeah, fair enough. I hear you. Yeah, if I were to choose one, yeah, I would side with Dominic Reyes too, just because yeah, he's on that too. He is, does look like there's a bounce back to him, so I would ride with that momentum with him. So, and indicative Krylov, yeah, not being active. So, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I would agree too. But yeah, that being said, yeah, too close to call, so that's why we didn't really put any weights on it.
Cool, man. Well, that'll conclude it. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I was thinking one other good fight on this card that we also didn't discuss, Dan Ige, 50K versus Sean Woodson. I will say that's a fight I was thinking about putting on as my weights, and I was going to be picking Mr. 50K Dan Ige. To be completely honest, I'm a big fan. of Dan Ige, but I have to say I respect Sean Woodson a lot, and his size and just like ability to control the pace of fights is just the one thing that concerns me. And Dan Ige, like Dan Ige usually is really good if you ask me against guys that have like really good KO power or like um, are just not as technical as him. And I think Sean Woodson is a really technical fighter. He's obviously got a lot of boxing experience too. And after seeing him just kind of clean up Fernando Padilla like that, I don't know. It is still a pretty good step up in competition. So this is kind of why I was saying though I'm going back and forth. Dan Igue's taken a couple questionable losses lately, but Lerone Murphy's now clearly looks pretty good after beating Josh Emmett and on the up for the next title challenger. Diego Lopes title challenger. Bryce Mitchell is looking good. So Dan Igue's losing to really good fighters, but is Sean Woodson a really good fighter? I don't know. Like I said, I'd lean Dan Ige, but I'm not confident enough. Certainly not as confident as I am in John Onyan to get the win. Any thoughts?
I agree with this one. Is definitely a tough one. It depends, you know, to me, yeah, like it's that size difference is everything. Like, Dan, like Sean Woodson is just so much bigger than him, and he throws a high volume of strikes too. So it's not even like he's slow with it. Like some tall fighters can be, like Neil Magny or like Stefan Struve. But like he's actually like quick with his hands, and his grappling too is ain't bad at all. So a lot of threats to Dan Egan. If I were to choose this one on the spot, I would probably lean towards Sean Woodson, but I would have to
Okay.
look more into it. But this is a fun one too that I'm excited to see.
Okay. Well, good shit, man. That was some extra bonus content for the fans out there. You know what I'm saying? Get a little extra out there. I love that. This will be a fun card, so I'm more than happy to continue discussing it. But we have no more picks to give for today, so we'll call it here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I believe next week we'll have a follow-up card to UFC 314 in terms of a fight night card. No, actually, my bad. So I knew we had a break coming up, but I didn't think it was this early. So actually, we will have a break after UFC 314. The week after that, on April 19th, there is no UFC fights. So just a heads up on that. We will not be live on April 19th, April 14th in that case, because there are no fights on April 19th, at least for the UFC. So we will be returning on April 21st to discuss the UFC Fight Night in Kansas City. UFC Kansas City, Ian Gary versus Carlos Prates. That card just got shuffled around a little bit. Anthony Smith, Ming Yang Zhang, the co-main event with Michelle Pereira and Abus Magomedov, talking about guys who came in from Bellator PFL. That'll be interesting as well. So make sure to tune in 2 weeks from today. In the meantime, let us know down below who you agree or disagree with, who you're betting on, and we'll make sure to set you guys straight going forward. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.